Okay, so question that I got on Facebook, which is a fantastic question from Tad, is how can there be both divine order, meaning the Creator's intention, and also free will? And I want to just say before I answer this question, I can only speak to you from my own awareness, my own personal belief systems about it. So, but I think it's valuable to hear another person's insight on these type of things and then just weigh it out for yourself. What I'm saying to you is not an absolute truth, but it is my experience of it, and how I have some very just really great guides who, when I ask questions, they're very good at it might take me a couple days to understand what they're sharing with me, but they're very good at sharing information with me and helping me to gain perspective. So this is a question that I'm going to approach from the perspective of what my guides have shown me. And it makes a lot of sense to me. And so before I can really answer that question, I have to explain to you that from my perception, there is the aspect of each individual, which is the soul. And when we incarnate into these bodies, this body, like for example myself, this person, Martina, has a personality. And that part of me that is considered my personality is my ego. It originates from the third chakra. We think about it up here, it's like the part of me that says I am this and I am that. But it is my ego. And it is a creation. The identity, my personality, is a creation of my soul, the divine aspect of me. Now, from my perspective, the soul is another, there is the infinite self, which is the divine, or what some would call God. And that infinite self brings itself into like a drop of water of the ocean, as they say. The drop of water is still a part of the whole ocean, but we can bring it down into a drop of water. That drop of water represents the soul. And so the soul is still the divine essence. And the soul then brings it down into a molecule of water, which would be the personality. So from the perspective that I see this as free will, and divine order, the divine infinite force that created the soul gives the soul full creative power. Free will, or the desire to create, to experience, is given to the soul. It is not given to the personality or the ego aspect of self. Now, the ego aspect of us, the personality, can choose. There is some, creative flex there. So our personalities, our ego selves, can get invested or have some power of choice. But it is overridden by our soul. If our soul has a desire that it chooses to experience in this lifetime, and let's say the personality doesn't want to experience that, the soul trumps the ego, because the soul created the ego, the soul created the personality that you are. The soul's desires are the ones that are given full power. Now, above that, of course, we have this infinite source that created the soul. It doesn't have any needs or desires, so it doesn't inflict its will upon the soul. The soul has full creative power. We are endowed with the full creative power of our Creator. The ego, however, does not have full creative power from the perspective that my guides have shown me. It is given choice. It is allowed to make choices freely. But if the soul has an absolute desire to experience something, it creates the personality to experience that experience through. So the soul is the deciding factor. So when you look at, does the personality have absolute and total free will? My experience is no. The personality, or who you are in your most limited self, does not have full creative power. It can experience the experiences it's going through. It has full access to every emotion in those experiences. But the one who chooses the experiences is the greater self, which is the soul. And the soul has full creative power. So I hope that answers the question. I think it's a fantastic question. And it's a little tricky to explain, so I hope I made that a little clearer for you. But again, this is just my perception of it. So when the personality may want something, if the soul is not invested or interested in that experience, then you will not experience that experience. It's also why sometimes the soul is invested in experiencing something that's very challenging and difficult. A personality would never choose a challenging or difficult experience, because the personality, which is rooted in ego, is always going to try to avoid suffering of every kind. The soul is not afraid of suffering. The soul is not afraid of anything. So if the soul has a desire to experience cancer, if the soul has a desire to experience any challenge, the soul is given the right to experience that. And the personality may choose to fight that or avoid it, but ultimately it's going to happen. I thought of another way to even explain this to you that might make even more sense. Seeing images and pictures in the mind is so helpful with this kind of concept, because it's pretty broad and hard to understand. But when you think about life, and I love using this analogy, think about life as a play, or life as a theatrical performance. And before you step onto stage, the soul decides what costume you're going to wear, what character you're going to play, what's going to happen to that character. And it's kind of like the whole life is kind of decided out. And basically the main themes of that character's experience are already decided upon. So if that character is going to die a particular way, that's decided. If they're going to have children, that's decided. If they're going to be a teacher as a profession, that's decided. And then all of those points that the soul is determined to experience as that character are actually chosen ahead of time. Now, in between those points, there's some space for creativity for the actual character. So it's like an what they call improvisation or improv experience. And so the character steps onto stage, they put on the character role, they put on the costume, which is the personality, and then they are given the freedom to improv in that experience and to play that experience out however they choose, as long as these points are always met, these points that the soul has chosen to experience before this life. So that soul is given, that personality is given tons of flexibility. But these key points are already chosen by the soul. That soul is going to marry this particular person. They might divorce this person. They might go through these certain diseases or challenges or traumas. All of that is chosen ahead of time. And what's really cool about it is it's chosen in conjunction with all the other souls that are on stage with us or in this life with us. It's all decided before we even step onto that stage, who we're going to be and how we're going to exit stage right. So it's why I say your death is always determined. There is no need to even fret about that day, because the day you're meant to leave this planet, you will leave this planet. So I hope that kind of explains free will, meaning that we have this flexibility as a personality to improvise in this experience, but we don't generally have total free will of choice. That is only given to the soul. And divine order is related to the universal creative force, is basically just the laws of energy that exist for all of us. And the soul is given creative power, complete and total creative power within that realm. And so happiness in life really comes in surrendering and trusting your soul, and knowing that everything that happens to you, your soul has decided upon, and to try to get from that experience whatever you can gain from it, to try to be the best you that you can be in that experience, and not to look at that experience as some form of punishment or some form of reward. that this is just simply, I'm here, I'm taking on this character role, I'm playing out this experience, I will return to my source, soul energy when I am complete. And that gives you, it gives me at least a sense of peace about knowing that I can be very creative and playful in this experience, but that those major experiences that happen to me are part of the plan, and to learn how to go with the flow and surrender and trust those experiences.